G'day folks, welcome to the FJ Build Part 3. In this episode I finish off the electrical installation, finish off the floor, install a water tank and install a water pump. So stay tuned. How you modify your vehicle is a very personal thing. Everybody has different needs and requirements, and therefore how you do your build will depend on what your particular needs and requirements are. I have some very specific needs and requirements. I have some camera gear that I want to be able to access really easily. I want to be able to improve upon my kitchen design, and I want to improve upon the shower design. So essentially they're the three things that are up the top of my list. What I'm going to end up eventually doing is building my own rear drawers, and I'm going to use the full length of the vehicle, and I've got some really interesting things in mind. Those rear drawers are going to go the full length of the car, from the back of the passenger seat all the way till the end here, about this high. So I'm going to have a big long open space where I can do my cooking and food preparation, and the whole thing will go back into the car. So that's that side of the car. Now on the other side of the car I'm going to have two levels of drawers, and the top is going to be about where the dark grey ends, so roughly about that height all the way across. I want the top of the whole thing to be flat across, and I'm going to have two levels. The bottom part will be pots and pans and anything that is large that I need to store down there, and the top part will be for my camera gear. So that's roughly what I'm envisaging. On this side I'm going to have an electrical board and also a 12-volt water pump and a few other little bits and pieces like switches for the tent and the awning lights and a few other electrical items. So I need to work out a few things before I can make a start with all this, and one of those things is where I'm going to put my secondary battery. Now this is my old battery box. This is made by FRASER and it's made of steel, and it's pretty heavy. But heavy is good when you want to bolt your battery down to somewhere and you don't want it to roll around. So this is much better than a plastic box. This contained my 100 amp hour lead crystal battery. Now I've had this for about 4 years. Its lifespan is about 18 years. So this still has a long way to go, 13 or 14 more years to go. It served me really well. I'm very happy with it. The capacity is fine, and it's, as a battery, it performs perfectly for my needs. But I'm replacing it, and the reason I'm replacing it is very heavy. So that lead crystal battery plus the FRASER battery box together weighs 46.5 kilos. Now that is just really far too heavy. So I'm going to show you what I'm replacing this with. Okay, so this is my lithium battery. This is a slimline lithium battery. As you can see, it is quite thin. And this weighs 21 kilograms. So it's a lot lighter than this stuff. Before I can install the battery, I need to build the rear floor so that I have something to bolt the battery down to. Okay, so this is the moment of truth. Now this is 18mm plywood, and this is actually made from a product called E-Light, E-Light, and it is extremely light. Like, if this was normal plywood, it would be very heavy, but this basically weighs nothing, but it is extremely strong. This is specifically made for RV four-wheel driving caravan fit outs. Now, let's see. Oh, that is a perfect fit. Look at that. It's nice when everything works. So this will come out to, let's see, if I make it come out to there, that means, yeah, that'll work. Okay, so I've done some measuring and now I hope that it's all correct. As the old saying goes, measure twice, cut once. So I've got my fingers crossed that these holes will line up directly with the bolt holes under the floor. I will then cover it in carpet and install it in the vehicle. Well, it's now close to 6 o'clock and that took a lot more work than expected, but progress for today. I have completed the floor, everything's carpeted, fridge is back in, strap down, looking good. I've got this board up, so this will have a pump behind it, power points, and a whole bunch of switches for various accessories, and of course the other electrical board is still there and getting closer to being finished. Okay, so I've done quite a bit, but it doesn't look like I've done quite a bit. Basically what I've done is I've done a lot of cabling. I'm running a 50 amp cable under the floor to connect the electrical boards together. I've also done some work on the roof. I've now wired in permanently power to the tent and power to the awning lights, which is, I've got an LED strip along this arm of the awning, and once again down here and in the grommet. And then that goes all the way across to the other side of the car. It comes out here. Okay, so this is the board that's going on this side of the car. Now, I didn't film the building of this because it was pretty much similar to the board that I did for the other side of the car in the previous episode, but this is far, far simpler. So what I've got here is I have 4 switches. Behind the board I have a 12-volt pump. I've got a fuse box. I've got some power points which are going to be connected to my inverter, and I have some connectors. I've got a connector for my fridge, I've got a spare Anderson plug, and I've got a few Anderson plugs on the reverse side for some of the accessories that I'm going to be connecting to it. On this side I've got basically this is a garden hose trigger nozzle with a little throttle control on the end, and that's going to be for my drinking water and whatever else I need to do. This is going to be connected to my water tank. This is from a household shower. It's incredibly flexible, but it doesn't kink, and it's probably 1.5 meters long, which is more than enough for what I need. And this is now connected to a laundry tap, which is on a bracket that I made myself. I can turn the water completely off here, so this all works really well, and I've got a little hook. It all works really well. I had this previously and I liked it, so I'm going to keep it because it just worked really well. Now, on the back of the board, very, very simple. I have my 12-volt pressure sensing water pump, and this will basically plug into a water outlet that I've already got mounted in the back of the vehicle there. So basically goes through and goes out to my water hose, so that's nice and simple. I've got 2 bus bars, a negative bus bar and a positive bus bar. Once again, everything negative is connected to the negative bus bar. Everything positive is going to basically a switch, which then goes to a fuse block, and then that goes to the positive bus bar, and that goes to my battery, which is basically, I've got my 50 amp input here, and that's going to my 50 amp circuit on the other board on the other side of the car, which has a circuit breaker, and that goes off to my DC to DC charger, and that of course then goes off to the battery. So that's basically how it all works. I've got some Anderson plugs on this side for output. I've got my awning lights, my tent, and my fridge. The fridge is permanently hardwired into here, so it doesn't need another switch because that will be on all the time. And I can turn the fridge off on the fridge itself, so I don't need an extra switch for that. And that's very, very simple and straightforward. So now all that's left is to basically connect this up on the back, and I've only got power power and water to plug in, and that's it. And I'll bolt it to the wall and I'm done. So that's the electrical installation done on both sides. And what I really like about this setup is it doesn't take up practically any space from within the car. It is all done in cavities in the side walls, and I've still got all that space left. Okay, so let's talk about water tanks. Now this was my previous water tank. It's a 22 litre water tank. It's plastic, it's lightweight, and this lived behind the driver's seat inside this jerry can holder. I had some brackets fixed to the back of it, and that was then bolted down to the fridge platform that was behind the driver's seat. And that actually worked quite well. For example, drinking, cooking, brushing teeth and that sort of thing. This was more than enough to last several days, 4 or 5 days easily. But as soon as I start talking about having a shower, now yes, my built-in shower system, you can you can set the water flow rate all the way down to so it's barely trickling, or you can turn the taps open and full whack and get 9 litres a minute. But I want to find a good compromise. If I have a flow rate where I can have a decent shower, then this empties to about halfway pretty quickly. But if I'm going really remote, like the Simpson Desert, then I want to be more conservative with my water use, and I want to make sure I have enough water. So this is my new water tank. This is made by Frontrunner, and it is a 40 litre slimline water tank. It is very thin and it's very light. So this is where the water tank will live, because this was a bit of unused space anyway. So I still need to work out how I'm going to secure the water tank, but for the time being I'm just going to use these straps to hold it in the approximate position where it's going to live, and then I can work out the details later on. You can see that that's a very nice fit all the way across the vehicle. It's the right width, so that is making good use of that space which would otherwise be unused. And I still have more space here if I want to put in something, which I actually am planning to. Now I have already changed the outlet. It came with a barb connector, and I've changed it to a John Guest connector so that I can use my John Guest push fit plumbing. So my plumbing of choice is this stuff here. This is made by John Guest, and it's a fantastic system where you can just push these connectors together. You have to cut that off at a right angle, and they push together. And no amount of pulling will actually pull that apart. The more the pressure increases on the inside, or the more you pull, the tighter the seal becomes. So to release it, you have to basically push this little collar down, and then you can pull that up. So that is it's a fantastic system, and they come with all sorts of attachments. So you've got right angle plugs and splitters and all sorts of things, so it's very easy to work with. So being 40 litres, that is quite a lot of water, and 40 litres equals 40 kilograms of weight, and being the weight conscious person that I am, I'm not going to fill it up completely full all the time. It's nice to know that I can if I need to. Typically I'll probably have it about halfway, and that will be more than enough for my needs, because as I'm traveling, I can if I do 1,000 kilometers a day, then I need to buy fuel anyway, so I may as well get water at the same time and fill it up at the petrol station with water, and then I'm good to go for another 1,000 k's. But if I'm going, for example, across the Simpson Desert, where you can only do 30 k's an hour maximum speed limit, so you're not doing large distances a day, or the Canning Stock route, same sort of thing. You can only go really slowly because the tracks are so rough that you just can't go fast. So you're covering a lot less ground than you would normally, and therefore you need to carry more water with you to last a longer period of time. So for those situations, I've got the capacity to be able to carry all that extra water if I need to. Okay, so I finished my plumbing. This didn't take longer than about 10 minutes. I've got a tap right at my output of my water tank, so I can turn that off and that'll stop the water going everywhere. This goes off to the back, and there's a splitter a little bit further on which goes, one path goes to the back. You can see a little bit behind the fridge there. That basically goes behind the trim and it comes up over here. And I'm going to now plumb that into the back of the board that will be mounting across here, and that will be going into my 12-volt pump. The other path goes to the front, and this goes off to my hot water shower system. And if I turn that on, then I get water out the front. If I turn that off, then I don't. And I can use an external source plugged into an inlet on the front. So before I can finish the plumbing here, I need to do two things. Firstly, I want to add a water filter. Here we go. So this is a standard water filter you can buy in most camping type stores or marine supply stores, four-wheel drive stores. I've replaced the connectors. This came with hose connectors, and I've replaced them with, once again, the John Guest fittings, because that's more convenient for my use. And hose connectors can come apart, whereas these things, they will never come apart, so it's much more secure. So I'm going to work out where I'm going to put this, because this needs to be replaced every however many uses. I don't know. Here we go, 5,000 litres. So that's quite a long time, but every 5,000 litres I'm going to have to replace this. So I want it to be easily accessible, so it will have to live somewhere in this area, but it also needs to be fairly out of the way. So I need to work out how I'm going to mount this. And the other thing is, I want to have some sort of water level indicator for the tank. Now, I've done a fair bit of looking online, and you can get all sorts of things. You can get water level sensors where you drill a hole in the side of the tank and insert a probe, and then it will measure the water level. But the ones that I've found, the probe is only about that long, and it's really meant for water tanks that are underneath the car. So that would only come up to not even halfway on this tank because it's long and narrow. So I haven't found an ideal electronic water level sensor for this tank, but I have an idea. So let's see if it works. For my water level indicator, I'm going an old school mechanical way to indicate the level of water, and I'm going to do that with this. This is a Perspex tube. Now the plumbing that I'm using is 10mm push fit connectors. Now this plastic tube is it takes high pressure and high temperature. So I went online and I did a search for see-through push fit 10mm tubing, and I came up with this. This is made from Perspex, and it is the same diameter, obviously, 10mm on the outside, and it is designed specifically for level indicators in machinery, and it's designed for high pressure and high temperature. So all I need to do is basically plug this in to my push fit fitting, and it's in. Now, because this goes a little bit higher than the water tank itself, all I need to do, as I start filling up the water tank, the water will also come up this tube and it'll be the same level as the water tank. And what I'm going to do is, the first time I fill it, as I'm putting the water in, I'm going to put it in 1 litre at a time, and I'm going to mark with a marker pen just dashes on this to show me roughly each 10 litres and smaller dashes, so that I can have a look and know exactly how many litres I have. I'm going to probably design some kind of a 3D printed bracket that I can put around this filler cap inlet, just on the collar there on the outside, that will protrude and have a hole for this to go through. And I'm going to put a plug in the top that will stop any spillage like this, and that will be my water level indicator, and that should be perfectly fine. And this perfect tube, only a couple of dollars. So I'm quite happy with that. I've actually tested this on a spare water tank that I have, and I filled it all the way up, and I plugged this in and I shook it around and I tried to dislodge it. It wouldn't come out. Water level obviously was correct. So simple but effective, and it works. So once I get the car built more fully, I will then fill up the water tank and we'll take it for a proper test. So the next step is the water filter. Now my dilemma is, do I put the water filter on the way into the water tank or on the way out of the water tank? Ideally, I would love to have the water filtered both in and out. A lot of people would probably say just put it on the out, so that the water that's coming out of the water tank that is going to my rear pump, that's where I get my drinking water from, then I can just have nice clean drinking water. But because the water tank is also feeding the shower, if there's any contaminants, bacteria, whatever that's in the water, I want clean water at the other end as well. So with that in mind, it probably makes more sense to filter the water on the way into the water tank, and that way anything that is already in there is clean and I know that that's good. So I'm going to now try and work out how I'm going to fit this filter. Okay, so the floor is done, permanently mounted. On the underside of the floor, I've fixed mounting points all the way for not only the battery that's going to go here, but also the drawers that are going to go on the top. So everything has properly threaded mounting points, nice and secure. Everything's going to be bolted down properly. And now the last step left is to bolt the battery down, connect up the wiring, and we're done. Okay, so time to install the battery. Now the battery will go approximately there-ish, something like that. Well, it's finally in. The battery's in. That's bolted down. That is not going anywhere. Now it's just a matter of building the cabinet around it. So you won't see that in the end. But it was a huge amount of work to get to this point. So I'm really, really happy and feeling a bit proud of myself, really. Yeah, this is done so properly. Everything is just built to last forever. It's done correctly. Every cable run is in a corrugated tubing to protect it. Everything is heat shrinked. Everything is bolted down correctly. Everything is done as it's supposed to be done. So I'm mighty happy with that. May as well hook up the battery now. So that's all I've got for this episode. This is a pretty significant milestone in this project. The electrical work now is completely done. We've got the electrical board on that side and on that side. I've got the water pump in, I've got the floor done, I've got the battery in, I've got the battery being charged from the DC to DC charger. All the electrics up there hardwired into this board. I've got the water tank in, everything is done, so we're looking good and I'm really happy with where we're at. The next major phase of the project will be to build the rear drawers. Now that will be a challenge. So stick around, and as always, take care, and I shall see you on the next video. Take care, guys. Oh, like, comment, subscribe. All the best, guys. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, you may choose to support the channel by buying me a coffee or making a small donation via our website, 4xadventures.com.au. You can also support us by buying a beautiful cotton t-shirt, jumper or other merchandise. If you would like a t-shirt with a four-wheel drive that isn't listed, contact me via the website and I'll see what I can do. As always, your support means the world to us and goes directly towards bringing you more great content. Thanks again for watching.